Hello, I'm Dr. Hand, flute teacher at McNeese State University, and I thought it would be a good time to help you with some tips on your honor band music, or All-State for those of you who go the second round, because this is a time when you actually have a lot of time to practice. Right about now, if you were in school, you would be getting the music from your band directors. And unfortunately, we are not able to do that, but I hope you can find the music. Maybe they can email it to you. Or if you are interested, you can purchase the book. The book is Selected Studies for Flute, edited by Himie Voxman, and it's available in most of your local music stores. I know Swice Good Music in Lake Charles carries it. So we're going to do first page 38. You have page 38 and 9, but you probably won't have to do the whole thing. So I'm going to cover all of it, and then I'll just do it in sections. And as I talk about each section, I'll play a little bit of it, and then you can work with it on your own when you figure out what the cuts will be for your part of the audition. So there are always two pieces of music in these auditions because they want to hear that you're a versatile musician, one who can play fast technical passages, maybe something articulated, and then also lyrical, expressive passages. And for flute playing, that means lots of beautiful tone colors and expressive vibrato. So this first one on page 38 and 9 is the slow one. It's called A flat major. Everything in this book is in a different key, so it's intended to help you play in all keys. And it says andante cantabile. Cantabile means like you're singing. So you want everything in here to be very fluid, legato, and lyrical. Unhurried, beautifully shaped, not fast, technical, flashy passages in this one. However, you do have to be able to play the parts where it moves a little faster. So the first part is going to be the first 3 lines of the page. And one thing you have to deal with here is where to place those grace notes. You have a set of 4 grace notes that happen twice in the first phrase and in the second phrase. And normally a grace note would be placed just right before the note that follows it. It belongs to the note after it. But in this case, because you have 4 notes to play, you'll want to place those grace notes very specifically in terms of the rhythmic division of that half note. So you have a half note C, and then 4 grace notes, and then a quarter note E flat. You still have to get to the E flat by the 3rd beat, but you'll have to steal from that C to place those grace notes. So they're going to be on the and of 2. And I'm going to divide that for you in a way that you can hear. I'll play the 8th notes out loud so you can hear that 4th 8th note of the half note C is actually where those 4 grace notes are going to belong. The tune without the grace notes. So we have to find a place to put those grace notes. They'll be on the and of 2, the second half of the second beat. So the quarter note, the half note actually now becomes a dotted quarter note, and you play 4 32nd notes on the and of 2. Same thing for the second phrase. That would be. But on the third phrase, there are only 2 grace notes. So you can actually perform those like normal grace notes right before the quarter note that follows them. So that would be divided. So that half note's actually going to get all 4 of its 8th notes for this phrase. So the first 2 phrases, the half note becomes a dotted quarter note, and the 4 grace notes become 30 seconds. And for the third phrase, it's a full half note, and the 2 grace notes are actually squeezed in between. That's what grace notes normally do. They're decorative notes, not intended to take time from the tune. The only other issue in this portion of the work, the first 3 lines, is dealing with that low C in the 3rd line. You have to slide from E flat to C, E flat down to C, and then back to D flat, and back to E flat. So the pinky gets a bit of a workout on that little passage. This is in the last measure of the 3rd line. So I'm just going to play a little bit of that. That's all done by the pinky. So you have to play E flat, C, D flat, E flat. Keep the pinky curved and relaxed. If you stiffen it or if you play with it flexed that way, it's going to be impossible to play that. You have to practice that slide so that you don't drag these fingers off of their cups or their holes if you have an open hole flute. The pinky is the only finger on the flute that has to move both vertically and laterally. So we have to slide for that little spot. So just be aware of that. It's a tricky little spot, so just relax your finger and that will work. So first 3 lines. So take good care of the final notes of all these phrases. It looks like you'll be thinking about all the 16th notes, but take good care of the quarter notes too. That's really where the finesse element comes from in pieces like this. How you start and how you finish are a very important part of the artistic finesse of the work. So take good care of your last notes. The 4th line really isn't hard. It's just a matter of reading it. So you take the time, go slowly, figure out those notes, watch for the accidentals, and just take your time figuring out the notes. There's nothing tricky about it except for the visual aspect of all the accidentals you have to deal with. Anytime you see staccato markings in this one, you'll want to take them sort of with a grain of salt, because this is a lyrical legato work in general. There's a little bit of lift, but they're not dry, pecky staccato. They will be on the other one. But for this one, like in the last measure of the 4th line, when we go down that scale, it's not going to be, they're not going to be terribly dry, just sort of separated. Trills, there's nothing fancy about that trill. It's just F to G, and you fit those grace notes in. Breathing, there's plenty of places to breathe. There are lots of places to breathe in here, and I'm going to demonstrate those as I play them so that you can make your choice about where you would like to breathe. You may need more or less, and as long as it's a musical place, that's perfectly fine. There are lots of acceptable ways to shape the breathing in this etude, and there's more than one way to do it correctly. And then in the last, let's see, this next section, I'm going to go to the half note G to C in the about halfway down the page where there's a rest. So from the 4th line, 4, 5, 6.5 lines, the only thing to deal with is just making sure you can shift the rhythm from the 16ths to the triplets. In the 5th line of the music, you have to come up this arpeggio in triplets. That's going to feel slow compared to the 16ths that are before that. And we have, once again, this package of 4 grace notes. This time, they belong to a quarter note. So they will be on the end of 3, the other half of that A natural. So the half note is full value, but the grace notes have to be stolen. The time for the grace notes has to be stolen from the A natural. So I'll show you that. The trills are just normal fingerings, but you will want to use your thumb B flat because the A flat to B flat trill is very awkward without it. So the thumb B flat is the double thumb key in the back of the flute. And you can use it for most of this piece, you just can't use it on a B natural, so you have to watch for when you can pick it up. The best time to switch the thumb position is on something that doesn't use the thumb, like a C or a C sharp or a D flat or a high G, something like that. So this one, the C is the place to do that. So in that 5th line, when you get to, 6th line, yes, when you get to that A flat trill, you'll just want to make sure your thumb is on the B flat key. The trill fingering for that is you'll finger A flat with your thumb B flat, then you'll trill your middle finger left hand. So I usually just write LH2, and that tells me to use my 2nd finger in the left hand. The A natural trill is the same fingering, the same finger does the trilling, but you're now playing A natural instead of A flat. So A natural, still left hand 2, still thumb on the B flat key. that same kind of theme where we have again 4 grace notes on the second, on the last of that half note. So the 4th, 8th note of that C will actually be turned over to those 4 grace notes. And then same thing on the next line. When you have that low E flat, you'll play the 4 grace notes on the and of 1. The other half of that E flat has to be given over to fit the 4 grace notes in. The trill in the next measure, the D flat to E flat trill, you'll finger D flat and trill second trill key. Now if you're a flute, some flutes have different intonation for those trill fingerings, those trill keys. So you can try it with either one or both, but usually just the second one is the best E flat, D flat to E flat trill. Then when you get to that big leap before the fermata A flat, take your time, because you've got a big embouchure adjustment there to go down to that low D flat, and you can actually play the middle D flat with your pinky already on the D flat key, already there, so you can reach, instead of here, so you can reach to the low D flat more easily. And from here it hooks right into a little connecting passage that takes us right back to that same thematic idea. And once again, another package of 4 grace notes. We place them on the and of 3 in this case, stealing them from the half of that A natural. And again, you have to make this shift from duples to triples when you move into the triplets on the bottom line. A flat trill there is the same as the other A flat trill with your thumb on the B flat key. Watch out for the rhythm of this double dotted E flat on the last line. It's a high E flat with 2 dots. You know that a dot adds half the value of the previous note. So it's a quarter note. The first dot is worth an 8th note. The second dot is worth a 16th note. Each dot adds half of whatever came before it. So all that's left for the second beat is that single 16th note E flat bottom octave or middle octave. So just count da, 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 da. I'll do that out loud so you can hear how that fits. I'll just start from the trill. That's how you place the rhythm of that single 16th E flat. So mentally, you continue to do that. And it feels like a long time, so be calculating those 16ths all the time so you're not guessing at where to place that E flat. And then other than that, it's the same material, an octave lower. And then again, on the 2 half notes on page 39, you can play the G with no pinky, or you can go ahead and put it on your C key so you can make an easier transition to the low C. So I'm going to back up a little bit so we can hear this hook into the passage that we're talking about now. To take all of those breaths. Those are just places where you can, if you decide you need a breath, you can choose the ones that work best for you. But any other spot than those would be a little bit unmusical. So I'm just giving you all the options for where you can possibly breathe. So going on from there, it's really just a matter of reading the notes again, except you have this big leap from the F down to the low E flat. So keep your jaw relaxed so you can get down to that low E flat. The triplet arpeggio that goes up to the B flat in that measure, this is the second line of the second page, is quicker than the arpeggios we've had, the triplet arpeggios we've had in the previous portions of the work. So just make sure you're calculating again those eighth notes. This is measure 2 of line 2. So it's 1 and 2. You got to make sure you really know where you are rhythmically. The first one is not a group of 3. It's the dotted 16th, 32nd. So make sure that's a division of 4. And then you shift to a group of 3 for the triplet that goes up to the B flat. The secret to that is just to make sure you don't play that G too early. Make sure you play it rhythmically right on time. So I'm going to take the pickup into that. It's going to be a more of a little flashier ripple going up. It's kind of like embellishing the melody there. And then the D flat trill we've talked about, the A flat trill we've talked about. The big leap here at the end of the piece is the high D flat, low D flat, high A flat. Again, let that broaden. Musically, that makes sense to do that anyway, and it allows you time to find your embouchure adjustments that have to take place, because that's a big leap. That's a lot of range to cover, so don't be in a hurry and just take your time, make it beautiful. Every note should be a beautiful gem. So going from where I had stopped before, and just be sure you take good care of all of your long notes and all of your final notes, and just try to make it as lyrical and songful and make it sound like it's just a beautiful melody that has no complexity in the technique that's challenging you at all, even though we know that it does have its challenges in the finger work that's involved, but it should come across as just a beautiful songful melody. So that's the A flat major on page 38 and 39. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me further about these pieces of music, but that takes care of our Andante Cantabile workshop on this piece, and I wish you the best and hope you enjoy practicing it, since you have lots of time now before the fall when you have to do this for auditions. Hopefully we will be back to normal and you'll be able to play it in real time and live auditions, and hopefully it will go well for you. Thank you very much.